A very warm welcome to my show today, which is a super treat because you'll discover a lot of little known information about the dear motherland, some very secret information, and a lot of drama you never knew about, both present and past. You know, the other day somebody told me, Chris, people hate you because you're always talking about history. Today's show is not about history. It is about the latest drama unfolding in our dear motherland, where State House Nairobi is very deeply involved. And this high-wire drama culminated in a statement on primetime news last night by the KTN. Indeed, there are some people who believe that what is happening right now is a very vicious, extremely vicious battle going on in a war that did not start yesterday. It started long before Ruto became president. And these people are saying that they believe that this is a war between Ruto and Gideon Moi. Gideon Moi alienda wapi? But in my opinion, it is much deeper than that. And you're going to find out the juicy details on my information-packed, action-packed show today. And so, tuende kazi. You know, over a year ago, we said on this channel that what is really happening in Kenya is that we have a battle between old corruption money and new corruption money, and it is very, very vicious, and apparently it is still very much ongoing when one considers what is going on currently in Kenya. A lot of it chini ya maji, and this is an important foundation to understand fully the complex background issues that inform the current very public, very vicious, indeed vicious, in a way that is unprecedented. That's not an exaggeration. Over the last few weeks, we have witnessed a propaganda onslaught against the Standard Media Group. I don't know what to say. And these attacks have crossed the line many, many times. And according to my research and the information I have currently with me, it would be impossible to grasp this very bizarre tale without understanding where KTN, the flagship of the Standard Group, came from, is coming from. So allow me to start there, because it is only when you know this crazy story full of suspense, it is only when you know it that you will begin to understand the thinking of the people who are behind primitive, in my opinion, attack against KTN. If you do any research on Google or you ask anybody, you will be told that KTN was founded in 1990 by a businessman tycoon called Jared Kangwana. Okay? However, that is not entirely true. There is a deeper story, a much deeper story involving mothers in Kenya stripping naked at Uhuru Park. Okay? There is a very huge difference with telling a story from the past by reading books and doing research, and by telling the same stories by actually being there. Please be confident, because I was there, right in the thick of things. In April 1983, Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, the then President of the Republic of Kenya, purchased a newspaper called the Nairobi Times. Now don't worry, I'm going to move very quickly. He purchased it from Hilary Ngweno of the Weekly Review fame. And it was pretty obvious what KANU wanted to do with the daily newspaper. Yeah, spread their propaganda. Yeah, without any hindrance. Because they had just announced, Moi had told us, KANU would rule Kenya for 100 years. Yeah, and therefore those with dreams of something else should just take a chill pill. Yeah? A few short months later, Kumekucha Chris, with no contacts in the media, not knowing any big people, got his first break at this newspaper, which was then housed at the prestigious ICA building along Kenyatta Avenue in Nairobi. The newspaper needed a film critic, and amongst the people called in for an interview was this very young man straight out of school, yeah, who ended up getting the job. Yours truly, and the rest is history. You know, in this life, sometimes all you need is a foot through the door, not even your whole body, just a foot through the door. And then if you're really meant for that thing, things just go like clockwork. But KANU and Moi were in for a very rude shock. They quickly discovered that this Kenya Times animal was draining their cash very fast, losing a lot of money. Now in those days, because of the previous owner's reputation, Hilary Ngweno of the Weekly Review, the Kenya Times had a very good circulation. But then that circulation started falling like a stone, and therefore the propaganda didn't go so well. Because you need many people to keep on buying your newspaper for your propaganda lies to reach as many people as possible. And this is how British newspaper magnate Robert Maxwell came into the picture. Yeah. Maxwell met Moi in October 1987. And at the time, Bwana Maxwell owned one of the highest circulating tabloids in the United Kingdom. And so the idea was for Maxwell to inject his expertise into the Kenyan media industry, yeah, and get Propaganda Kenya Times a very high circulation, so that KANU would remain in power for 100 years. And so a brand new company called Kenya Times Media Trust Limited was formed, yeah, where KANU, the party, owned some of the shares, and Bwana Robert Maxwell owned the other half of the shares, roughly. And it was soon announced that the Kenya Times Media Trust Limited would launch a TV station, which was a very big deal in those days, when we only had the Voice of Kenya, yeah, now the KBC, Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, which was fully owned and is still fully owned by the government of Kenya. Now you know, people still say that the KTN was the first privately owned TV station to be launched in Kenya. That is not exactly the truth, because Kenya Times Media Trust majority shareholder was KANU, the political party. And this is where Bwana Jared Kangwana comes into the story. He was the chairman of the board of the Kenya Times Media Trust Limited. And by the time the KTN was launched in March 1990, many people knew Bwana Kangwana, especially because of an incident, very dramatic, that had taken place in August 1978. Because at that time, Kangwana who's an advocate of the High Court, he's a lawyer, was the boss at KBC or VOK. And when he was asked to announce the death of Kenya's first president, Mr. Jomo Kenyatta, he refused. But let me back up a little, because he had very good reasons for refusing. Let me back up a little so that we understand. We now know that sometime in 1976, an intelligence operation, highly secret, was launched concerning the Jomo Kenyatta succession. This was shortly after a world-renowned heart surgeon, Dr. Christian Barnard, a South African, had visited the country at the invitation of the government and had examined Jomo Kenyatta. You know, when a doctor examines a patient and then they start shaking their head, left, right, you know what that means? Huyu mtu kwisha maneno. It is just a matter of time. I have a feeling local doctors already knew that, but nobody could dare tell the government what was going on. Better to keep quiet and stay alive. Younger Kenyans, please note, Jomo Kenyatta was not a joke. Anyway, if you look into your history books, you will also realize that it was around this time that the Change the Constitution movement, the attempt to change the constitution, so that if Jomo passes on, the presidency will not go automatically to the then vice president, Daniel Moi. That is when that movement started. And of course now it makes perfect sense. Jomo was going. Everybody who mattered in Kenya knew. Now you realize in that kind of environment, and you know Bwana Kangwana is a very sharp man. In that kind of scenario, where there's so much drama all over the place, it would have been easy for somebody to fake the passing on of Jomo Kenyatta. And this is why the then head of the KBC, on August 1978, Bwana Jared Kangwana, refused to announce the passing on of Jomo. And he said he would only do it on one condition. That condition, that the head of the civil service, then, Bwana Geoffrey Kareithi, takes full responsibility for the announcement. Yani washes his hands. This is a Kareithi announcement. Whatever consequences to follow, ongea na Bwana Kareithi. I cannot resist another super fascinating aside here. Where exactly did Jomo pass on? Was it at State House, Mombasa, as is widely believed, or was it at Msambweni, Kwale County, South Coast? Well, the official story goes that on that fateful day, August 21st, 1978, the day before Jomo passed on, he was not feeling well. But it was still important that he's seen in public, and therefore it was organized for Jomo Kenyatta to cross the ferry into the South Coast and travel all the way to Msambweni to enjoy some traditional dancing from the Digo community. Jomo loved traditional dancing. And we are told officially that Jomo had a mild heart attack in Msambweni. And we are told officially he was then transported back to State House Mombasa, where he passed on. Now it is quite possible that those who witnessed this mild heart attack, which was at a public function, traditional dances ongoing, may have interpreted this to mean that that was when Jomo passed on. And those people were sure because they saw it. They saw the so-called mild heart attack. And by the way, the people who are telling us about this mild heart attack are not medical people. But we can also not rule out the possibility that maybe it is true he passed on there, and what was transported back to State House Mombasa was just the body. We will never know. Anyway, Jared Kangwana finally got his assurance from Bwana Karethi at around noon on 22nd August 1978. And therefore the very first announcement was made at exactly 12:30 p.m. 22nd August 1978 to a shell-shocked nation. Jomo is dead, read the special edition Nation headline that day at lunchtime or thereabouts. Now that super fascinating story, what does it tell you about Jared Kangwana? He had connections. He knew powerful people in government. He knew what was going on in the background. He had a lot of information that even some politicians did not have. Okay? That's important to understand what happened next. But we were also given other information which maybe Kenyans at the time did not fully understand, but is very relevant. It was announced that KTN would be a cable TV network, very different from KBC. A cable TV network, to give you examples from the US today, TNT, HBO, ESPN, etc., etc. Cable usually has a limited audience. Cable has no antenna to receive the signals from a satellite up there. In the context of Kenya at the time, cable is very easy to control and censor. And news, primetime news, is not the thing for cable TV. The transmission, at least in those days, was a radio frequency transmission via cable. That's how you received your TV pictures and audio. And now we can understand the mystery of why Moi, who was very sensitive about the news that gets out to the public, would have accepted for KTN to be launched in 1990, at the height of the fight of the Second Liberation. 2 long, very eventful years before the resumption of multi-party democracy into the country called Kenya. We can now neatly solve that mystery. Kangwana, being a former boss of VOK KBC, poached the best, the cream of the talent from KBC and brought it to KTN. And this included names like Njoroge Mwaura, Catherine Kasavuli, and others. And of course, KTN was very good at developing brand new talent. And with the benefit of hindsight, we now know the chief foreign investor, in quotes, in the Kenya Times Media Trust Limited did not have any money. Maxwell was broke. And so we also understand what was really behind the massive Kenya Times Media Trust project at that time, a 60-story media complex, skyscraper, built bang inside Uhuru Park, Nairobi. When complete, that project was also supposed to have a 30-foot statue of Daniel Toroitich arap Moi. Well, that project never happened. Now, for those people who understand financing, and especially crooked financing, you would understand why a huge project like that would be a very good cash cow for Maxwell at the time. But a great Kenyan woman called Wangari Maathai, who is also in the history book as the only Kenyan ever to win a Nobel Prize, Nobel Peace Prize, blocked this project and succeeded against all odds, against mighty KANU. And at one point, to protect Uhuru Park from being encroached by this monster project, mothers of Kenya, including Wangari Maathai and the mother of Koigi wa Wamwere, turned up at Uhuru Park and stripped naked to curse Moi and KANU. You know, investors are very nervous people. And so, the people who are supposed to finance this mega project, pulled out, and it never happened. But meanwhile, the baby called KTN soldiered on. With no money coming in from the broke investor, Robert Maxwell, whom Mo introduced once at a public meeting, and I was there, and he said, "Huyu mtu akona pesa mingi." Those were Mo's exact words. Anyway, with no money coming in from this major foreign investor, Bwana Kangwana, the chairman of the board, had to think quickly, and the idea was changed from a cable TV network to an ordinary TV station, to be sustained mainly by advertising. And so where was the money coming in to sustain KTN? Bwana Kangwana organized bank loans in his name, and KTN quickly gained a reputation and a lot of love from Kenyans, who for the very first time since independence now had a choice between VOK and KTN, and most of us went for KTN. More professional, more detailed in the news. And that is where the problem started. Drama unfolded in 1993 when Kangwana called a press conference and told shocked Kenyans that KANU does not own KTN, and neither does Robert Maxwell own KTN. Kangwana said at that presser, and I quote him, "Ownership is a difficult concept when you have not paid for it." I think that is very clear. Anyway, to cut a very long story short, Kangwana was bullied out of KTN using the usual means, waiving of files. There was a theft case that was brought up against him, and his passport was even taken and shredded into pieces. Police got into a commercial aircraft before it took off. Kangwana was going on a business trip out of the country, and they snatched his passport and tore it to pieces, meaning that the man was stranded. Could go nowhere, no passport. And that is how KTN ended up being part of the Standard Group, which is owned by the Moi family. Now, very important to note, it is clear that KTN has had a history of being grabbed. In better English, hostile takeovers. Very hostile takeovers. And it is very interesting that at that time, Standard was owned by a man called Tiny Roland, of the Lonro group of companies, who also had a reputation for hostile corporate takeovers. But bottom line, the Standard Group ended up with the Moi family. Now, fast forward to the present. It is widely whispered in the corporate world that somebody is attempting a hostile takeover of the Standard Group. Now, that is a very important piece of information to understand the drama that is unfolding currently. Because somebody with such intentions would greatly benefit from the propaganda that we have seen in recent weeks. There was even one piece of fake information, of a fake letter from the board announcing the liquidation of the Standard Group. And remember, all this propaganda would not have come at a worse time, because we know all media houses in Kenya are going through some tough times. Although KTN, being a leader in the industry, is doing better than most. That's a fact. Let me put it this way. Citizen are doing very well. KTN are number 2. But it seems that somebody has been very determined to sell the idea to Kenyans that KTN and the Standard Group is finished. Now, the Standard Group last night, in its KTN primetime news, appealed to the Cabinet Secretary Interior, Bwana Kindiki, to take action against these thugs who are spreading malicious rumors and propaganda all over the place. Yeah, they're doing something that is obviously criminal. Now, in my opinion, this was a very smart strategy. Why? Because in the event that Kindiki takes no action, that will be propaganda smear campaign against the Standard Group is state sponsored, yeah, or is sponsored by somebody who is so powerful within the state that they are untouchable. Now everybody in the corporate world already has that information, including the Standard Media Group. But the clincher here will be when Kindiki takes no action. It will be a clear confirmation. Not only that, it will open the eyes of Kenyans on how the UDA government, UDA Kenya Kwanza government, operates. It will also be a very clear message to possible foreign investors that in Kenya, anything can happen to you and you will not be able to do anything about it. Simply because if a local investor like the Standard Group can have all these horrible things happening to them, who are you as a foreign investor? Now obviously that spells doom for Kenya and foreign investments. That should be clear. And also, from the super fascinating history I've narrated, one can imagine how those who are behind this are thinking. You yourself did not get KTN in the right way. You grabbed it. So, what is wrong with us grabbing it? Something like that. And then there are those who are constantly reminding us of the age-old rivalry between Gideon Moi and William Ruto. And let us not even go back into the history. Because Ruto started out as Gideon Moi's errand boy. Okay? Not too long ago. To be precise, in the early 90s, 1990, 1991, 1992. And over the years after that, there has been a lot of bad blood between Gideon Moi and William Ruto. And Gideon Moi is Standard Media Group, the major shareholder. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how this ends. But already the most disturbing thing by far in all this drama is that it appears our current government, or very powerful people in that government, are prepared to play dirty while they're in government. And that is more than alarming. Much more than alarming. And for so many reasons. Now, very quickly before I go, in case you're interested in getting an even better understanding of this drama that is unfolding, very unfortunate drama that is unfolding in our country, I would highly recommend my two highly sensitive special reports. Yeah? Once you go through these two videos, you will totally understand. In fact, you will go beyond understanding what is happening. And you will even be able to very accurately predict how this is going to end. It is not going to end in a good way. It is going to end very, very badly. Now I believe you can see details on your screens right now. Unfortunately, we have very few slots left. Times are very hard, and we've not been able to get the target number we're looking for. But now we're almost there. Very few slots left. And so I suggest you take action immediately in order to avoid disappointment. Until next time, This is Chris Kumekucha.